So for today's video, I'm joined with Darnish, and we're going to be breaking down sort of why Manchester United have been sort of so poor this season. Even when they've won games, tactically, it's just not looked brilliant. The football hasn't looked brilliant. And Darnish is going to explain some of the key issues that have gone on at Man United this season and sort of point them out for us guys. So Darnish, I'm going to hand it over to you to sort of explain and go through the images on the screen that you've annotated here.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks for having me on. First of all, so we can get some things off our chest. It's been a long season, and it's been a tactically very frustrating season. It has been interesting to me in terms of what has gone on, and basically Ten Hag's almost lack of addressing a lot of the issues. But hopefully, if we go sort of section by section in the season, we're now it's 8th of March, so we're 26 games in. So if we go section by section and then sort of address what was happening in each part, I think it will help piece together why the season sort of is what it is and has become what it is. So I think it was important to start off with the first game where alarm bells were ringing for a lot of people, rightfully so. Mateus Cunha, I call this the Mateus Cunha game because basically if you turn the game on at almost any minute, Mateus Cunha was just running through the whole of our defense for basically all of it. So this is where the initial issues started. So, by the way, the attack was dreadful in this game as well. Like almost everything they did was bad. The actions, the decision making was poor. What Ten Hag has tried to do this season more, and I think that he's done this more so than last season, is employ a high press. So the thing is, this has had good results. We won. I think we turned the ball over 16 or 17 times against the Wolves game. I think it was 16 or 17 times. If you go back to the first slide.
Yeah, sorry.
That one. That will sort of display to you that look at how high Casemiro is as well, and Mount was playing in this game, Fernandes. The point of what they were trying to do was win the ball high up the pitch as much as they could. This happened. Whenever it did happen, the attack got the ball, mess up the attack. The attack would break down. Hey presto, Wolves come away with the ball, and there is more than enough space in transition for all of them to exploit. As you can see, if you go to where Cunha's running here, the point is if you have a bunch of players caught up the pitch pressing, they don't turn over the ball because they haven't really learned this very much. I think they probably had one summer when they tried this. If you don't have a good rest defense in place where there's going to be players in place that are going to anticipate that the attack is going to break down, this is exactly what was going to happen. There's far too much space for Cunha in this game. Casemiro didn't help with the way he was lunging into tackles this season. As you can see there, he lunges into a tackle, doesn't get the ball. Cunha's free again. Martinez then has to go up and engage. And with that being the case, Cunha, when he evades Martinez's tackle, there's only Luke Shaw and Rafa Varane back. Everybody else was caught up the top, either committing men forward or pressing.
Yeah.
Now this is completely fine if, number one, you're good at pressing, which they weren't at this point because they were still learning, or number two, your attack is converting enough chances or creating enough chances to score a goal at the other end. And they almost didn't do this because the attack was bad. So I left this game. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I've got a question that is a little bit off topic maybe, but do you think tactically this is Ten Hag's issue, or do you think tactically this could work if we had players that maybe had the athleticism off the ball?
No, I think this could have worked if it was implemented differently. This does fit into what I'm going to talk about later, but if you look at the way we press, it's very strange. I think Jamie Carragher said it recently. The attack presses, and when the attack doesn't get the ball because you're only pressing with 3 or 4 players, the opposition can play it past your attack and into midfield, and then the defense has to sit back and wait like this for the opposition team to come onto them. I don't think it's a case of athleticism. I think it's a case of a poor pressing structure where he doesn't He doesn't commit every player forward. Now, in some
Yeah.
games this season, he has committed players forward, and we'll get onto this later. But it's because it's a particular type of situation, or the game has gone into a particular state where we need to take the onus back. Only then has he committed every player forward. If you
Yeah.
press, as a team, and the attack presses, and when the ball goes, I don't know, say to the left back, and the left back is closed down by the left winger, and as the left winger closes down the left back, just behind him, the opposition winger, as in the opposition left winger, if he is backed up by a Man United fullback, that is fine. To me, that's fine, because everybody is committed in that press. It's man to man. Everybody's going to commit. If we don't get the ball, fine, but everybody's committing. What has happened this season is, for whatever reason, the forward line sometimes presses. The midfield doesn't join, or sometimes the defense doesn't join. So then you have a disjointed press where it's easy for opposition to find space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Now this is just one of the issues. The pressing was one of the issues. I thought that this would get better during the season, or they would try something different.
It's not really changed.
No, there's been differing versions of when it's worked, but we'll get onto that. So this is what worked for us very well last season. It was man to man, but it was what's been touted now as a hybrid press. And what Man United do and did in this game against Tottenham was go man to man, but when somebody leaves, so say if Fernandez there leaves to go and press, I don't know, he goes right to Udogi, somebody will then go and pick up Basuma. So you're picking up the nearest player to you, and making sure that each one is marked off. Now, this is something that Man United employed in the big games a lot last season, and it worked. It worked. They limited Manchester City at home to 4 shots. You limit Manchester City as much as you can. They're still one of the best teams in the world, but it worked predominantly because it was compact and it cuts off the middle. It really narrows space in the middle. It squeezes it. You can see there's barely any space in the middle. Udogi, Porro, Bissouma, everybody's close and compact.
Tight.
Yeah. The only spaces are where your advanced midfielders, Ismail Assar and Maddison, are, and they're peeling off. They're doing this. They're trying to spread the press. But Anthony here and Mount have been smart enough to go and spread out. So this is absolutely fine. This is absolutely fine in the image that you see. This is not fine. This is not fine. So if you want to go back to that image and then go to this one, and you can look at the differences. Look at the Look at how rushed everybody is. Look at how harried everyone is. And this has been happening in all the big games this season. This has been happening. This has been happening against Tottenham, Man City, Bayern Munich, Brighton. We'll get onto that in a little bit. But this is where last season in United's man-to-man worked because managers didn't really have a way to combat it. This season they are, because they're just going, they're trying to block off the middle. What we're going to do is spread our back players as wide as possible. Look at Pedro Porro there. He's spread as wide as possible. When you do that, other players have to go wide and go close whoever's the widest player down. It then stretches the press. It doesn't make it narrow and doesn't make it compact, and it creates plenty of space. And then then different things happen because a player has to go out and tackle where he shouldn't be. Look at where, I think is that Casemiro?
Yeah, I think so.
Casemiro and Maddison. He's now had to come out, and Maddison is in behind him in space because the United players have been stretched around because they're being pulled in different directions. Simply because teams know that Man United are going to man mark, and they're just stretching them out this season. They're stretching them out. They're not staying compact because they have had to press.
Yeah. Do you think we've become predictable a little bit in that sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. Predictable is one word. Another word for it is just, it's complete naivety if in constant games your man marking is getting spread around. And you cannot see that in almost every big game apart from Liverpool, the man marking hasn't been good. And Liverpool was largely good because Liverpool were just god awful in that game. I think every time they touched the ball, the ball just went out. I think this is the second game. Now, this is the 5th game, I believe. This is the 5th game against Brighton. Again, good man-to-man structure. Martinez is pushing up on Welbeck because when Welbeck drops deep, De Zerbi likes his strikers to drop deep, and he likes the defense punching it into Welbeck, Welbeck touching it around the corner, then they have space. Martinez is doing well to get up against him. Casemiro's tracking Lallana. Højlund is on the centre backs. This is good. Again, this is good. Marking
Yeah.
off the middle pivot. You can see how narrow it is. Again, it's narrow, it's tight. Because if I close off the narrow strip as tight as it can be, what I'm going to do is force you out wide. If you have the ball in the center of the pitch and you're finding spaces in the middle, that's a problem for me. If I force you out wide, I would rather you have the ball there. Now, again, this is the idea or the concept of stretching United's press around. And all Brighton did was pull their centre-backs wider as possible. So when they did this, Fernandes went out to press Dunk. Rashford went out to press Van Hecke when he should be 5 yards back covering Pascal Gross. And now there's a problem because...
Player free.
Yeah, exactly. And United's press, again, has just been stretched around simply by the centre-backs pulling as wide as possible. If you watch Manchester City in every game this season when they've had to break down a defensive block, their centre-backs are so wide. It's a back three, but it feels like the two centre-backs are so wide, and it's like one in the middle. Because if you do that, that means players have to go to different directions to close them down. This is very early on, but this was a clear example to show that the man marking just wasn't working and hasn't been working, and yet we continue to deploy it. Continue to deploy it in big
Still
games.
Now.
I remember it against Newcastle where it was deployed, and I don't know how we only lost that game against
they were
Newcastle
all over
1-0.
us.
Yeah, because they kept doing this. Because they kept
playing for our midfield, like.
Yeah, exactly. And the man marking just kept being exposed.
Diving into the Chelsea game, which I thought for the most part we played much better than other games. Did you still see issues in this game with the man marking, or do you think it was better?
So yeah, I mean, we can get onto the Chelsea game, but I just want to talk a little bit more about the games in between. So
yeah,
after Brighton, we had Burnley, Palace, Brentford, Sheffield United, then the City game where again I think there's more images later of me explaining it, but it was the same. And marking City are like masters of finding space. But then we played Luton, we played Everton. The Newcastle game was in there. So these games were the very strange. It was a very strange time in the season where, because of injuries, he had basically said that we're going to play pragmatic football, and so in these five out of 6 wins? Burnley, Palace, Brentford, Sheffield United, Fulham. These games, and Everton and Luton were involved in there as well. They predominantly involved. This is the worst football I've seen us play in the whole season, and it was normally, Scott McTominay scoring 2 last-minute goals, Bruno Fernandes scoring a volley that was a worldie, Diego Dalot scoring a worldie against Sheffield United last minute, Bruno Fernandes again scoring last minute against Fulham, Garnacho scoring one of the best goals I've ever seen. It was players using their individual quality to score, because the football was just. It was incredible. It was hoofball. It was hoofball.
Yeah.
I know we had a lot of injuries, but we had no build-up structure at this point. None. I was watching certain clips back of the game, and what they were trying to do was just simply go long the whole time. And I think this was because Ten Hag said it was because of the injuries. Just because of that, we had scrapped all facets of the play. We had scrapped the whole 3-1-6.
Yeah.
We weren't moving out from the back. We were just going long. It was just hoofball. Now, you can tell me that we won 5 out of 6 games during this period, but it was by a nose hair. You should not be beating Sheffield United by a nose hair. You should not be beating these teams needing Bruno Fernandes to save you last minute. You shouldn't be needing Garnacho to score one of the best bicycle kicks I've seen. The only good thing in this period was Kobe Manu was suddenly in the team, and that was like the only thing that we could all enjoy. I
Yeah, 100%.
slightly understand why he did it,
No
or I
Martinez,
can
no
understand
Shaw.
his. Of course, yeah. There was, I think, Johnny Evans was playing multiple games. There was multiple people on and off the injury table in this time. I'm pretty sure we were trialing Lindelof at right back as well during these
Oh
games. I
yeah,
think it was
yeah.
like it was a
Below to
weird there
go
was a
left
weird
back as
combination
well.
of, and all of a sudden nobody could score, so he was putting McTominay in the team, but that was also creating issues because now Bruno Fernandes had to come deeper, and now your best, most creative player
Midfield wasn't
is
there?
10 yards, 20 yards away from of the goal of where they should be. So there was lots of different things going on, and I remember watching the Burnley game, going, "Okay, fine, they got through it. I want to see numbers back, and I want to see better. I want to see better style of play. I want to see us get back to it." But the problem that I find with this little period is he would have won more fans over, and United would have played better if he still played the way he did, even with the players playing out
Yeah,
of position
100%
and
agree.
everything. He did this
Yeah,
during
I got
at the end of last season. Martinez got injured, Varane got injured, Casemiro got injured, Ericsson got
it was
injured. Those
still
are big
better.
key players, of course, because they were still doing the 3-1-6, and winger goes wide and fullbacks comes inside, and you try to find space that way.
Yeah, I
The
got a
point
question
of
about pre-season though. Quickly,
yeah,
sorry. Did you see when everyone was fit and sort of playing in pre-season? Were you more happy with the way we were playing in pre-season, even though results weren't going our way, than sort of now?
and I would have been happier to see any way of playing during this little period than this pragmatic win by a nose hair against bad teams and need my players to bail us out last minute, because it is just not it's not a sustainable way to win. It's not a method where anybody could understand. And it was just hoofball. We were just playing
Yeah,
hoofball. I know we won these games, but it wasn't there wasn't many periods where we were sustaining patterns of play where we were creating chances. We were just creating chances because our players were quite good. I remember we beat Sheffield United 2-1, but we probably should have won 3 or 4 with the good chances created. But
yeah,
what you do by going pragmatism and going hoofball is you're then making the game into a state of chance. It's down to chance a little bit more, because you're an elite Premier League team who can't sustain pressure for, I don't know, 60, 70 minutes. You can't hold the ball, or you can't create, you're not utilizing a method to create proper chances. And they were doing that last season. They were against the bad teams, which is why
yeah,
they got third in the cup, because they were excellent at beating the bad teams, lesser teams. Sorry to
yeah,
people who
yeah.
watch this who are
We
like,
weren't good against
Bournemouth
the big
fans, Burnley
teams
fans. Yeah,
away, but at home we were very good at home, and last season, particularly against the bad teams, we relied on that. If we're at home, we're going to get a result. But this season, even when we're at home, we're just bad, really.
absolutely. And it was just during this period, it was completely scrapped. So after these little pragmatic games, I think Newcastle beat Man United 1-0 and completely tore us apart that game. I think
Yeah,
the weird basketball Champions League games were going on. I want to point out and talk about quickly the games against Chelsea at home and against Aston Villa at home,
yeah,
because these were the only 2 games where I saw light at the end of the tunnel, and I thought, well, maybe we could play this way, and we'd at least be a fun team to watch, and we'd at least carry out things that work. So what he did in these games against Chelsea at home and against Villa at home is he pressed high with every player joining in, with the fullbacks joining in. So here you can see it's man-to-man. McTominay is on Fernandes. Enzo, that is, Bruno is on Caicedo. Højlund is marking either the centre-backs or the keeper. And Garnacho is anticipating the ball over the top. Now, if you go to the next slide,
yeah,
you can see that the ball played to Cucurella. Shaw is right up to him. He's right behind him. This is the concept of a man-to-man press, but each player backing up the
yeah. The
press.
fullbacks. Yeah,
It's the fullbacks pushing up against the press, No, maybe it was a combination of Chelsea being bad and Chelsea just being poor in build-up, but the amount of turnovers in this game, again, just through pressure, was huge. It was huge during this game, because Man United were utilizing what had actually worked from at the start of the season, which was pressing. This was a way that you could have played even during that little pragmatic phase. Okay, fine, just press teams then.
Yeah.
This is pressing Chelsea. Chelsea have players like Caicedo, Palmer, Enzo Fernandez. What would have happened if you pressed a team like Burnley? What would have happened if you pressed a team like Sheffield United? What would have happened if you pressed a
Yeah,
team
it could
like
cause
Fulham?
more problems.
You would have probably won the ball more up the pitch. And again,
Yeah.
the amount of attacking chances created and the amount of regains up the pitch created just from United pressing in this game was huge. It was huge.
Do you think that's Ten Hag doing that, or do you think it's the players just can't consistently do that to a certain level?
I'm really glad you asked that. I'm really glad you asked that because we'll get on to the Villa game as well. I think it is down to the situation and the state that he's in. I think it's down to, I think home advantage has a big part to play in it because
Yeah.
he's only done it twice. He's only done it once at home against Chelsea and once at home
Yeah.
against Villa when he needed to turn the game over. When the crowd roaring, to try and flip the game state, that is when he's instructing everybody to push and
Yeah.
press up. And we'll get onto it. We'll get onto the Villa game now.
Yeah.
They asked him after this Villa game. Sorry, this is
City Villa. There we go.
Here we go. They asked him after, and you can check there. Look at the minutes, 63 minutes. They asked him after the game because again, they did the man-to-man thing in the first half. It wasn't working, and they said to him after the game, they said, "What changed? What did you do?" And he said, "At halftime, I made changes in our pressing. In order to take the game back, he went to pressing. He went to man-to-man. Look at how Kobe Mino is there on McGinn. Look at where Wan-Bissaka is on Jacob
So
Ramsey.
tight on them. Yeah.
But Villa do this thing where the wide wingers, so their left and their right wingers, both of them, they come inside, they come centrally, and they hover, so it's really hard to mark them. So Wan-Bissaka in this game, I remember, did an excellent job because Ramsey was coming inside, and Wan-Bissaka was like, well, "All right, then screw it. I'll just come up against you, and whenever you get it, I'm going to push up against you and make sure that it's very difficult for you to get the ball and turn." So he's doing it according to game states and he's doing it according to certain situations. I have no idea why, if the one thing that works for you in the season, in a season that is bad, why are you not persisting with it? But on top of that,
agree.
Why are you not persisting with it against teams who would be susceptible against the press? You can press.
Yeah.
You can press Burnley. You can probably press Fulham. You can also probably press Sheffield United. If you can if you can overturn a 2-goal lead against Villa using a high press with everybody involved, if you can do it against Chelsea, I think you could probably do it against those other teams. But again, it was 2-0 down. He changed the pressing. If you go to the next slide, you'll see, look how high everybody is there. Look at Dallo. He's a fullback there. They're not. It puts pressure on the other team there because you're forcing someone to play a quick pass. And when they play a quick pass, because you're pressing them, it's the ball goes erroneously back to the opposition. I think there's more slides of
it. No, we're on balls.
Okay, no, we're out of it. We're out of pressing.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing that he's done against I think Chelsea at home and Villa at home, where it's the only thing that has worked. And I just have no idea why he's not persisted with it. I know he keeps talking about injuries. I know he keeps talking about.
Do you think he's scared?
Yes, yeah, possibly. I think that's a good point because in the first game the pressing didn't work that well, and it led to a lot of transition issues from Matthias Cunha. But also, I would say from the first game there were so many attacking opportunities and so many situations that they got into themselves just because of the press. Okay, your attack was bad, but your attack probably wouldn't have been that bad throughout the season. Also, your attack wouldn't have been that bad when you finally got it settled and you had Rashford, Højlund, Garnacho, Mendes. It was definitely something that you could have done in the pragmatic phase as opposed to having Scott McTominay up front and
just because he scores.
Having your most creative outlet as a number 8. it doesn't. It just didn't make sense. It's also something that you could have done with different players and different options, because it's not. He was somebody who was lauded for the things that he tried and the things that he changed last season, because there was injuries and suspensions last season. We went through, there was, I think, about 10 games in a row throughout to the end where he kept changing the central midfield pivot because Eriksson and Casemiro were injured. I think we went Fred Sabitzer, Fernandez,
Yeah,
McTominay. He kept changing things, but I understood why, because there was injuries and suspensions. But he was still changing things, and he was still trying different things. And Weghorst was in midfield in some games against Barcelona. He was lauded for his in-game changes last season, and this season, when things have gotten bad, I've seen almost no changes.
yeah,
We've seen one
stubbornness.
change. We've seen pressing.
Like he's, yeah.
And the
No, I'm with you
pragmatism,
on that.
which is just pragmatism. It was never a foolproof method to results or creating chances. They never looked good in those games.
Yeah, it's been a lot more stubborn this season, even with like substitutions and stuff. You know exactly who's coming on and what's going to happen. It's quite predictable, I think.
Yeah, which makes even less sense when you think that the season is worse, and also because of the amount of injuries that you have. Surely you would be trying new stuff.
Yeah, literally. So I want to sort of talk about this Wolves game here, because I thought the first half when we were away to Wolves was quite good, and then we were still conceding a lot of chances and shots. And I thought I wanted to see your sort of thoughts process on that and how we played versus Wolves.
Yeah, this is the section in the season where I was actually enjoying things. We're seeing Garnacho get better and better game after game, and mainly because Kobe Mino is in the team, and it's just joyous to watch him play football. So this is, I think, around about after the winter break. There was one game against Tottenham in January, and then this is the winter break. Wolves, West Ham, Villa, Luton, and the recent loss to Fulham, and then the loss to City. Momentum has shifted a bit, but there was 4 wins in a row. Now this is mainly down to players back. I think we got 2 games of Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro. Back with Mino in the pivot. So this is what we should be seeing more of often now, and hopefully you see this more often if he's the coach. With players back, this is the 3, 2, and then the 6. So this is 3 at the back: Martinez, Shaw, Varane, Casemiro, Dalot in midfield. Fernandez in the right positions where he should be, up against Wolves' defense, as advanced as he can be. So your attack is then pinning back the Wolves' defense. And in this first half, they were excellent, because what they did then is they went back to what they did last season. When people keep saying, United have never had a play style and Ten Hag's not true. Against the sort of lesser teams, this is what they did last season. This is what they have done this season against Wolves in just this one game. If you want to go to the next slide. So what they did then is, just by pushing Wolves to one side, using like the possession base, there was a big switch on the opposite side. If you drag the defense in the midfield to one side, like by using Luke Shaw, I think it was Rashford on that side, that creates space directly on the other side.
Yeah.
Casemiro switches the ball to Dalot. If you go to the next slide, you'll see the overlap. Yeah. Mino has taken away Gomez here, and it creates a large space for Dalot to cross. Fernandez dummies. I think Rashford eventually gets it and scores. Yeah. But you can see there how much Mino has dragged Gomez away from the back 5. Like, that's a back 5.
Yes. Space opening up now.
Mino's run has taken that away, but it starts off with you manipulating an opposition into going to one side. Quickly then, when they've gone to one side, switch the ball to the opposite wing, which is exactly what they've done. We just saw the concepts that we saw last season of Ten Hag holding the ball in like the 3-2-5, where you work the space wide, drag a team to one side, do that big switch and go to the other side, or you drag a team to one side, use the left winger with the fullback coming inside. But I think we saw this more because the players were back, and he was saying this as well. He said, "You didn't believe us." Yeah, they said, "Well, what's improved?" I think the press asked him what's improved, and he said, "Well, you didn't believe us, but the players are back." But
Yeah, we looked
they
a
only
lot
got
better in
this
that
for
first
2
half.
games, and Martinez got injured again.
Yeah, so that's where Rashford scored. I've got questions for you. Like, if you're Ten Hag right now, because we've got Martinez and Shaw out, which are obviously 2 massive players in build-up, and I think he does seem to change his tactics depending on those out. Obviously, you've mentioned the press, doing the high press. If you were Ten Hag right now, like, what would your sort of lineup and approach be towards now and the end of the season? Assuming as well that Ineos are probably looking more at play style than results, is what some people are saying.
Yeah. I think that's the other thing that's really baffled me is he's managing for his job. He's been managing for his job a little bit for the last, I don't know, since whenever Ineos were announced. Surely if a new football instructor is coming in and they're paying close attention to absolutely everything you're doing and there's a magnifying glass on you, don't you want to display the best concepts that you've shown at Man United? Shouldn't we be watching that rather than hoofball for 3 months, McTominay up front? I know it's Man United and winning is above everything, but surely we wanted to be seeing those concepts. But right now, again, he's got injuries. Fair enough. I will address again. It must be annoying having teams coming on and off the treatment table, and then when they come back, they don't have chemistry with certain other players because those players who were injured before are now. It's a revolving door. It's a revolving door, basically. But if I was Ten Hag now and I was looking at the fixtures we had left, Everton, Brentford, Chelsea, I think Liverpool at home, Newcastle at home, I would be doing what we did last season against Everton at home. I expect, we'll just go to the next game. I expect them to dictate the game. I expect them to hold the ball, even with Lindelof at right back. You can try something new. You can try and put Amrabat in midfield. He's not very good at doing the defensive thing. Strangely, Amrabat, but in possession sometimes he's okay. The ball in possession, United have been kind of better in the last few games against the lesser teams for sure. Against Forest as well in the cup, it was better. So I would expect them to do that. But with the games left, if I was Ten Hag, I'm not. But I would do the pressing. I would do the things that worked. I'd also try and dictate the game against the lesser teams and have some creation. But we'll see what happens because in the last few games, Villa, Luton, and Fulham, again, we've seen those same issues come up where there's far too much space in transition. The structure again, it's man marking and it's not working, so there's loads of space. They played it very quick against Luton, and the transitions against Villa again they were the same, but that was because you had Højlund there, and that was because of like, okay, we'll take a few punches, but our attack is good enough now to get back up and swing back. With Højlund out, you don't have that anymore. But playing into the concept of transitions, I think, is what he did in the last few games. I think that you can maybe try and do that against Liverpool at home. You can try and press them and try and be quick in transition. But against the lesser teams, against the Brentfords, against the Evertons, and I think we
want that control.
I think the Burnley's what I want them to go back to that control. I don't want to see pragmatism just because you have Lindelof in the team. Arsenal did this last season. Saliba got injured towards the end of last season. Arteta stuck to the plan. He stuck to the same play style. The effectiveness of the play style will probably decrease because you don't have your best player in the position of where you should be, but you still should be seeing those same concepts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I get what you're saying. And I think my thing with Ten Hag is the City game was awful, but I kind of expected it to be awful. I just think that I wish we'd have given Ederson a bit more to do because I kind of knew we were going to lose looking at the team sheet. But I was like, if we'd have given Ederson a bit more to do and we'd lost, I'd have been like, meh, what are we going to do? Look at the difference in lineup. But I look at our lineup and I look at Fulham's lineup, and I don't think that Fulham have a lineup that's 10 times clear of us. And it's when Fulham are the ones that look like they're in control and they're the better side. That's when I think, for me, there's the question marks around this pragmatic approach to Ten Hag about how are we actually letting Luton who we did beat in the end, and Fulham, be playing the better football, be playing the more controlled football.
Yeah, I think the Fulham game was another problem that they ran into, which is where they did try to control a game, is they'll do three at the back and then two in midfield. Fulham marked off the two in midfield, so there was nobody to pass to in midfield. So he also hasn't figured out a way to get past that either. So even when sometimes they're trying to control games, I think West Ham away was a similar one in that they controlled the majority of the game, but they didn't have a route to create attacking chances because he doesn't have an answer to that either. So then the concept or the answer back that we've seen to that is, again, that go long or transition football, but it's not, that hasn't been suitable either.
Needs a
So
plan B.
we'll see against Everton, because I gather it will probably be the same. They'll try and control the game, which I think will be the right thing to do. But if Everton are smart enough to mark off the United's double pivot, I'm not sure what the plan B is, especially with Højlund out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Anyway, I want to thank you very much for coming on and showing some good tactical insight. We don't really do this kind of stuff too much on the channel, but you obviously are very into your tactics and you do some good stuff. And I just thought, do you want to let the viewers know where they can find you? I'll put links in the description and stuff as well.
Of course, yeah. I'm doing a lot of work with FOTMob at the minute, but you can get me on Twitter, where I'll be posting analysis regularly. It's DHARNISHIQBAL. I think you'd be posting this with my Twitter handle anyway, but yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming on, everybody. Please do hit the like button on the way out, and of course subscribe down below if you're new, and check out Darnish.